Koigi Wamwere, politician, welcome to the JSO interview.
Thank you, John.
You will go down in the history books as perhaps the politician who, in the past, has spent the most time in detention, first of all in the regime of President Jomo Kenyatta and his successor Daniel Arap Moi. You then infiltrated the political life yourself and became an assistant minister for communications under Mwai Kibaki. Therefore, you have a substantial record of activism and political engagement in this country. We have a new government and they've been 100 days in power. Do you like the way things are going?
I don't like the way things are going, mainly because I see a leadership that has a tendency to repeat our past mistakes. Remember, the first time we got into problems was immediately after independence, when we had a lot of expectations that we would give our people everything that colonialism had denied them. But as soon as our leaders got into power, they decided that the most important thing for them was what they could grab for themselves. They became grabbers. In the process, they developed a one-party dictatorship with which they were going to facilitate their grabbing. And after that, things never really went as they should. That is what got some of us interested in politics, because we said this is not what the Mau Mau fought for. This is not what our people fought for. We needed a better deal from our leadership. But we had leaders who did not even remember to tell us that to the list of disease problems that they said were most important, which were of poverty, disease, and ignorance, they forgot to include the problem of bad leadership. And the current leadership that we have, to be quite honest, I don't see them as a superior leadership to the one of Kenyatta, to the one of Moi, or to the one of Kibaki. I see them as a continuation of KANU governance, KANU leadership. I would say if Kenyatta was KANU A, Moi was KANU B, Kibaki was KANU C, then they are a KANU D, and I don't see them doing better than their predecessors.
I find that rather strange in terms of judgment, because you have people who have political power. And the very direct question that I put to you is, do you think we're on a good or bad footing? Because you're passing judgment and sort of suggesting that people have committed crimes that you have no way of justifying that perhaps they have or have not.
You see, there are some practices, political practices, that people engage in because they are necessary to have a society function properly.
Yeah, but please be specific in your criticism. What is wrong with the leadership that we have now?
Let me start by saying, by quoting a Kikuyu proverb that says that when the leader limps, the flock does not reach the pastures. Here we have a leadership of two people, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. Both of them are charged in The Hague for crimes against humanity. To be quite honest, without caring whether they will finally be proved to be guilty or innocent, I think that they should not have run for presidency and deputy presidency once they knew that there were charges pending against them. The reason for that is that just having a president and his deputy paraded in The Hague is a terrible embarrassment for the country. And I believe that it is also a terrible embarrassment for them as individuals. Now, I did hear Kenyatta say that one reason why they wanted to have the government is so that they could use it to get themselves out of the trap of ICC. Sincerely, I don't think that is a good reason for people to ascend to the top leadership of a country. This country has a lot of problems, and these problems will not be solved by a government whose first priority is saving these people from The Hague. And I think that is the first mistake.
With respect, I think that there could be a certain level of high-handedness in your remarks. We're talking about a nation that has seen people come to power. And I don't really think that our focus now, we're not going to play sort of barrack room lawyers. I'd like to assess the promises made by the leaders that we now happen to have, who have said we are going to do certain things. One of the things that they've done is to appoint cabinet secretaries. Now, if you were an assistant minister for communications under Kibaki and you were nominated to the present government, would you perhaps have said, say, I, Koigi wa Wamwere, I say no? Would you have said that as a politician?
No, I wouldn't. And it is precisely because I would probably not have done so that we came up with a vetting process which would allow us to pick as the best without necessarily having to rely on their self-judgment. Now regarding the pledges that the current government has made to the people of Kenya, I do believe that some of these pledges are achievable. And the reason why I believe that they are achievable is because I think that Kenya is rich enough to be able to actually implement some of these promises. But when it comes to implementing, we have quite a big problem that we must look at. That this country has a huge problem of corruption. Only the other day, we were put at position number 4 in the world. Last year, our companies were put at number 1 in terms in corporate corruption. Remember where this corruption came from. It was recommendations made by a commission that was chaired by Duncan Ndegwa. And my own feeling is that without corruption, this country has a lot of money and it would be able to do all these things.
Right.
But when we do not address the problem of corruption, and we actually don't seem to be doing it, whenever I hear President Kenyatta talk, or whenever I hear Ruto talk about corruption, I am not convinced that they believe in fighting corruption at all. And in any case, how do you believe that somebody like William Ruto is a fighter against corruption when the other day the court found him guilty of taking someone's land? And this man just takes the judgment as if it is the most normal thing. And most unfortunately,
I would put it to you as a premise. I mean, I take your arguments in good stead, but isn't just this part of the historical continuum of working towards democracies? If you look across our borders, you have problems in Egypt, people going to Tahrir and killing themselves in presidential guards choosing people. For you, if we go back,
yeah,
who would be the first to cast the first stone? You were in government as a minister. In your day, an assistant minister to be precise. In your day, things were much better, and if only you'd stayed, they'd have got better still.
I criticized corruption when I was an assistant minister for information and communications. I further said
but you may have aided and abetted its continuance, albeit unwillingly.
I never did so. Each time I came across corruption, I have always fought against it.
Right.
And
okay.
One of the reasons why I would not be made a full minister was precisely because the government understood my position against corruption. But that apart...
Let's go away from the personal attack. But that is not the object of our conversation. You are being unkind, unfairly, from a sort of very smug, self-satisfied feeling of superiority to people whom you think are not acting to your ideas of decency. But the Kenyan populace, 50% of the Kenyan populace has voted for these leaders.
Let me tell you, John.
Yes.
I would love to see Uhuru succeed, and I would love to see Ruto succeed. Because if they succeed,
right,
this country will have succeeded.
Exactly.
And I will have succeeded, and my children will have succeeded.
Right.
So it is
but it
not
seems to
that
me as you're not even going to give them the benefit of the doubt. You're saying they're headed for a court case.
Because the reason why we have failed is because we have not done some certain things. We are a country of many communities. We have not tried to unify the nation. Precisely because we have embraced a sickness that is called negative ethnicity. This is the tiger on whose back Uhuru and Ruto rode to State House, and so they are unlikely to fight it.